I think it's been pretty well covered, and I want to just give a kind of a general statement is when people are physically healthy, they're going to be more capacity to be sexually active. The issues I see as a psychiatrist, family therapist, is really fear of intimacy. And those are things I address with the couple in couple therapy about their usually mutual fear of intimacy. So those are the two issues that play a big role, generally being healthy and also fear of intimacy. That's, when you address those, you've got it.
All right. So, well, you know, we deal with so many men and women. So many men have erectile dysfunction. So many women have libido problem. And it comes to all this daily stress. You have sick people in their family, maybe the children, maybe your parents. And, you know, it really comes down to this safe place in your life that the partner has to be totally open, and there has to be the trust. There has to be safety. And I think if you don't feel that, you can't let go and you can't let in. So it's really, really that choice that we make in our life to find the right partner, and not just to have, like you said, a meat game. So meat slapping, and even so, it's with practice comes perfect.
So I agree with what Chris said here about the medicinal plants. There's a variety of natural plants that are used in Asia and South America and different places around the world as adaptogens, as we would call maybe aphrodisiacs or sexual enhancers. But really, when you put them together, you know, we like to use a lot of combination formulas that are like Chinese herbal or Ayurvedic formulas because they have a balancing effect. It's not just, you know we can say we can stimulate this or we can increase free testosterone there, but it's really improving libido in general. But that also has to do with, you know, giving people more energy so they're less fatigued, like you mentioned here. You know, if we're tired at the end of the day, again, which most people are, these are just extra work that people feel like they have to do. But it's you know, when I look at sexual enhancement, it's improving libido. So it's not, because it's easy to get erectile dysfunction. I mean, there's herbs that can do that, you know, but it's just getting the whole, I'm aware, I'm happy, I feel good I feel vibrant. But when it comes to sexual function, you know, in my practice, the number one concern or complaint that I'll get from a female is like vaginal dryness, for example, you know, and you know, as women go through menopause, and we have a saying in our clinic with my partner, I'm a Marine. We always say, you know, if you're a woman, you have to retain your juiciness. You know, I'm a woman, hear me roar. And I'll just give a quick example. I was in Indonesia many years ago. And I was in a hair shop, and there was this woman. I go to hair shops when I used to have longer hair, and this is where you can get the local news of what people are talking about. And there was an American woman. She was getting her hair done in the shop. It was somewhere in Bali or somewhere in Indonesia, and she mentioned the word vaginal dryness. And these are like, you know, hair shops where everybody's talking. It's really loud, and all of a sudden it just became dead quiet. And like everybody just looked at this person like, "What do you mean vaginal dryness?" And the person from America, she's like, yeah, you know, and I haven't had sex with my husband, blah, 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 and my kids are in college and all. And they were shocked that she was just talking about vaginal dryness. Not from a sexual standpoint, but just like, why would you have vaginal dryness? And just like, you know, if your hand is dry or your foot is dry, you'd put a cream on it, or you wouldn't walk around with dry skin. But for some reason in Western medicine, particularly in OB-GYN and Western medical culture, it's like once someone's done with that part of having children or at a certain age, we don't discuss it. And for us, you know, I look at it, if a woman comes to my office, she's 90 years old. I saw someone the other day, she's actually 94, and she's on her third husband now because she outlives all of them, and the boyfriend that she's dating is 76, and he can't keep up with her, right? And so there's a little bit of like, again, I'm a woman, hear me roar, but there's a vitality. A lot of times people want to focus on sexuality, but I want to talk about vitality because whether sex is something that can come along with the relationship, but it's the vitality of just being happy with yourself at whatever age you are. I mean, we go to other cultures and we can see patients in their 80s and 90s, and they're so vibrant. Right? And then here we just think of like, oh my God, we're all just kind of end up going to a nursing home or something like that. So it's a very different perspective with these other cultures because obviously sex is an important part of a relationship, but it's also feeling, that the essence of having that you can have sex, but it's also for those people who don't need to or don't want to, is that they still should have that vitality in essence. We have formulas for that. I think that there's a variety. I don't want to just be spouting things. I mean, you can come to my lecture and read my book. That would be very helpful. But when we look at other questions like hormones, because I think that's something that we could bring up just in the transition of this talk, if you don't mind. What I see in my practice is a lot of people are now going to this anti-aging aspect of, I go to these clinics and I'm getting pellets in my butt and getting all these kind of things like that. And as an integrative physician, I see the dark side of hormones because they usually go to clinics and they get pumped up with hormones, and everybody who's delivering hormones want men to be super high and women to be super high. And there's risk to all of those things, and I end up dealing with those risks. So there is natural things like for vaginal lubrication. There's even things that come from avocado seed extracts that have been patented now. We're evidence-based practice, so everything we use has some kind of clinical study or some kind of form to say this is why we're delivering it. But even just organic virgin coconut oil, it could be very helpful and beneficial as well. It has antibacterial properties, it's very cooling, and it's edible, so there's no toxicity with that. Unlike what gynecologists use every day, which I would never touch on anybody. So there's things that we can look at that are natural, but we always want to look at moving toward that area where it's not just chemicals or not just hormones. They do play a role. So if someone has a deficiency, we might need a supplement for a little bit of period of time. But this long-term use of those kind of things, just to say that you take this and you'll feel like Wonder Woman or Superman, that's a little bit of a false narrative that's being spun out there in the industry right now.
So about 12, 13 years ago, Anna Marie and I said, let's write a book on sex. So that led us to do deep experimentation for about a year and a half. And we found out some really interesting things. This is 7 keys to lifelong sexual vitality. And I was really stunned. I had to read this on 2 medical journals to believe it, that the #1 user group then and now of Viagra are 20 to 28-year-old boys. They use it as a recreational drug. And boy, when I was that age, it would have fallen off if I took Viagra. I'm going to tell you. I certainly wouldn't have needed Viagra. I needed, what did they put? Saltpeter, I think, at that point. So they went around the country and they pick a very good research institute, Texas A&M, and they said, try to find a natural substitute for it. And they found something that worked for boy and girl, not just men, and it actually works 3 times better, and it's called watermelon. Watermelon has a phytochemical in it called citrulline. And the 2 parts of the watermelon that have by far the most, not the part you want me to tell you, the fruit, but the skin and the seed. And so we started to experiment it with, we actually dried the watermelon seed and grew it as we would a sunflower sprout. And my God, all I can tell you is we had chastity belts around at that point. In this book, we touch on both the nutritional aspect and visualization. We talk about visualization. We use that at the Institute. Everyone gets psychotherapy. Our comprehensive cancer programs actually led by Dr. Ranecki, who is Carl Symington's partner for 30 years, the father of modern visualization. And it also gives you a sexual prowess, a sexual premise. So fantasizing is a healthy thing. It's not a dirty thing. because every one of us do it, but you don't admit it. That simple. So you can close your eyes, and the ladies can use Brad Pitt. Who do we want to use? We're so old, it probably... Who? He won't say.
In my world, there's only God, so you're making
Sophia
love with
Loren
God.
or something. You have to have fun with this type of thing. I'm totally in love with my wife. She's my best friend. I trust her. There's safety in that. And every once in a while, we come out of our love bubble, and we say, you know, the world would be a much better place if people had intimacy, if women felt safe. You know, even I, who consider myself a sensitive man, I may not be, I consider myself one, I'm not tender enough with Anna Maria as I should be. You know, we have this animalistic drive, and yes, it's testosterone, but it really is a cultural thing that we were taught to conquer and to be machivo and all of these things. And so I think it's really good advice that you gave us, that we love you and you trust us, so why shouldn't we have you tenderly loved? And of course, cleaning up your diet's important. The more meat you eat, the less sex you'll have, that's for sure. And plus, who the hell wants to have sex with you when you smell like meat? So that's what I have to say tonight.
Atkins diet.
So I'd like to say one more thing about sex. I've had couples where, let's say the man is in a high-powered job, and the woman goes to see him at work, and she's so turned on to him. Boy, he's in his power, and she just really enjoys watching him. And then he comes home, and he becomes a needy little boy. And she is not turned on to little boys. And so one of the things that women need is she needs him to be in his power emotionally, not just financially, not just at work, but she needs him to come to her full of love, not trying to get love, which is what's happening a lot of times. I need to have sex to get filled up. I need to have sex to go to sleep. I need to have an orgasm because I have a big talk tomorrow. You got to give it to me. That's not a turn on. And so she needs him to come to her in his power, which means he has learned to take responsibility for filling himself up with love, to share with her. He's not coming to get love from her. There's a huge difference.
A simple way of thinking about it is sexual energy is 90% in the head, 10% in the body. So what happens in the living room is key to even getting to the bedroom.
And for the men in the audience, for those who haven't moved to a plant-based diet, if you haven't seen the movie The Game Changers, there's an aspect on erectile dysfunction which will enlighten you and probably change your mind after watching that. Just a preview, remember heart disease is vascular problem, so erectile dysfunction is just the canary in the coal mine, and you can reverse that by reversing the diet. However, just by eating foods we can actually measure, and they'll show you that on the film.